Gourmet Guitars, the best Luthiers DVD series. From guitar enthusiasts for guitar enthusiasts.
Well, the pros and cons of being on the edge in terms of building unconventional guitars, it's pretty simple. You definitely get more recognition and more attention if you build stuff that is not standard, that is somewhat outside the box. But the main public buying habit is still very traditional. Being in Los Angeles definitely has an impact on what I do, partly because it's a very dense city in terms of textures and structures, and it's a post-industrial city. It's very sensual on many levels. There's more credibility. For one thing, there is definitely the cachet of made in America. It's definitely easier because you're going from here into the world markets, Japan, Europe, and so on. Whereas I think if you're in Europe, it's more of an uphill fight. Here you're swimming in a pool of different cultures, different attitudes, and there's no overarching system that dominates. So you're pretty much left to your own devices as to what you do and why you do it and what the value of what you're doing is. I guess I found that liberating. The other thing that has a big impact is Los Angeles, of course, is also a center for the music industry. So there is a lot of builders, there's a lot of infrastructure here, there are a lot of musicians. It's just a large scene to be part of.
I've always dreamed of having a custom Mad Dog Michael Spalt guitar with the Mad Dog logo and some of my desert objects, power objects embedded in the guitar. One of these days I'll have him build one for me.
Well, I'm originally from Austria. My first love was film and cinema. And the dream, of course, was to come to Hollywood, where the film industry center is. When I came here, the first thing that I did was buy an old Cadillac convertible and drove around with the top down into the desert. I think all the Europeans have to do that. I studied in San Francisco, art and film, and then I went back to Austria for a while, studied some more art, and a friend of mine who I knew from San Francisco called me up one day and said, "I'm in LA, I'm gonna make a movie, do you want to come and help me?" So that's what I did, and I got stuck here. The city's kind of like flypaper. You come here and you get stuck. I worked in the film industry for about 10 years, a little more. Did pretty much everything you can think of except acting. And then I got increasingly frustrated with it, with the people, and with the whole scene. And I started making guitars kind of as a hobby in my garage. When I started working on guitars, I was a teenager in a band, and so we started modifying. It was a time when having a custom guitar was the cool thing to do, so we chopped up a lot of vintage guitars and you know, put in pickups, Did all sorts of things, stripped them, changed the shape. It was a lot of fun, but I was never aware really of any builders until pretty late in the process. Too bad that most magazines and most publications are so focused on just the run-of-the-mill traditional stuff and do not really offer the guitar playing public a look into the amazing variety of guitars out there, of what an electric guitar can be. I'm praying for this vintage thing to pass because ultimately it's stifling, I think, in the long run for builders to just try and repeat and recreate. It's good for them to go out and try new stuff. I've always loved prehistoric art. I think in many ways it's about as artistic as anyone ever has gotten in the history of man. Looking through some books on prehistoric painting, I came across this assembly of dancing figures, and it inspired me to pick one and adapt it and change it a little bit to kind of modernize it maybe. It is a dancing man from an African prehistoric painting that had a group of dancing men. I never used the name for the guitars, so now it's just simply a logo that seems to work very well. People recognize it. It's highly visible. If we're at the NAMM show with 50,000 people wearing the t-shirt, you can spot us across the hall. It's interesting to see that many times there are very similar in completely disconnected locations among people who do not have any contact with each other. Because I remember when I did my first hybrid guitars, I was really proud of myself. I said, man, nobody has ever done anything like that. And then half a year later I discovered that Ulrich had done the birdfish. And even though they're pretty different in many ways, you know, the basic impact on a viewer is very similar in the sense of, okay, this is wood aluminum and it's kind of weird. And then later on, after having done totem guitars for a while, I discovered Girl Brand. But again, the approach is different. I really think Girl Brand guitars are among the most beautiful guitars ever built. He has some absolutely beautiful specimens there. That holds true for a lot of things. I found that true also when I grew up in Austria. There was the Austrian inventor of the typewriter, there was the Austrian inventor of the sewing machine, and when you're in America, there's the American inventor of the typewriter and the American inventor of the sewing machine. And when you look at the dates, they're pretty much the same. Whoever got to the patent office first was usually the winner. But the development, which takes a long time, a few years probably in the case of that, was taking place simultaneously among people who had no contact with each other. There is that kind of synchronicity happening, and I think it's also happening in music, it's happening in pretty much everything.
Gourmet Guitars, the best Luthiers DVD series. From guitar enthusiasts for guitar enthusiasts.